On this episode of the Innovative Schools podcast, Kevin and I sit down with the AI educator, Dan Fitzpatrick, to talk about AI's challenges, its benefits, and how you can get started with it as an educator. Come on, let's learn together. Hey everybody, welcome to the Innovative Schools podcast. We got Jordan and Kevin today.
Hey, Kevin's here with you, Jordan.
I know.
I'm not flying solo.
Yeah, I think everyone knew you're just like isolated from everyone else.
I know that, but I'm not. I love y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all are great.
Yeah, it's great. But we're here at the Innovative Schools Summit in New York.
Yes, we are.
Which is
right on. I mean, we're right outside the walls of Times Square.
Times Square is right there, Broadway, all that stuff. It's great. We've been here before. We come to New York every year. But this time on this podcast, we're talking AI, artificial intelligence.
Correct.
With
the one and only
Mr. Dan Fitzpatrick.
Dan Fitzpatrick.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
This is our first international podcast.
Oh, wow.
Is what I'm going to call it, at least.
That's right. We're going to make it the international podcast because he hails from deep South Texas. Not really, no. So Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you hail from, and just a little bit about Dan. Who is Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. So as people watching or listening can hear, my accent is very different. So I'm from England. But I'm from the north of England, so I think a lot of people, when they think of an English accent, think of kind of Hugh Grant, what we kind of call the Queen's English. That's not what's happening here at all. So I'm from the north, from a place called Newcastle, right in the northeast of England. And live kind of now about 10 minutes from the Scottish border, so probably as far north as you can go. But I get to travel here to the United States regularly. Love coming here. Just being in New York, it's kind of a childhood dream of mine. I get to come often, but every time I get to come, I like pinch myself, and that I get to walk down Times Square through Central Park. And I suppose as someone from England, I kind of saw all this as a kid on TV, in movies. So thank you for inviting me and for having me here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we love it. We know that you have, it's great to have some just kind of new perspective, like hearing about things that are going on in education in another country, but also just for us to be able to talk kind of that AI, it's a big buzzword kind of thing for us to get into.
And before we start, though, I just got to know, because you mentioned where you're from. So how is Newcastle doing now? I'm a football fan.
Right. Okay.
Soccer fan, football fan. So yeah. So how is Newcastle doing right now?
We're doing well. We're doing well. Yeah. If you follow the Champions League,
absolutely.
We're doing very well. But yeah, you know what? We had decades of disaster after disaster. So just any win is a huge win at the moment.
That's right. Any of the Manchester City, you beat them, didn't you?
Yeah, they beat us the other day.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up.
Yeah, that's all right. But we're doing well. We're doing
all right,
well.
good.
Yeah.
Well, we got that out of the way. I just needed to find that out. So Dan, tell me what got you started. Obviously, maybe you can tell a little bit about your teaching background, but what got you started in working with AI? And obviously those things are changing every single day. But what developed that interest in you to go that route?
Yeah, so probably just to say from the start, I'm not from a technical background in technology in the slightest. Kind of always been, like many of us, someone who's really interested in it and kind of looked to see how it would enhance my own life and enhance my own work. When I was training to be a teacher, I remember every Friday we would have sessions where another expert in a certain field would come and give us, those of us who would train in different sessions in different topics. And we had a session, and it was about cloud technology. Now that sounds like the most unsexiest thing in the world, and I thought that going in, thinking, I'll just sit at the back and kind of check some emails. But it kind of blew my mind, and not necessarily what it could do, because I think we're all kind of familiar with that now, but that the fact that we weren't utilizing this, and just something very basic that like we could have a resource that could be accessed at any time from anywhere on any device, and students could access it in a similar way. it just seemed like a no-brainer. And the fact that we were kind of keeping this technology kind of arm's length and way back then was just kind of really inspired me to go to want to tell people more about the technology and help them understand how it could help them. So there was myself, there was a couple of guys who were in my department who were more experienced teachers, but I kind of got together with them and said, look, we should do this as a department within our faculty and kind of be an example of how this could work, and then just start telling people about it. So we convinced like the catering team to put breakfast on, and we'd get everybody in before school had started. Very, very grassroots. So my career carried on. I very much moved from being a grassroots advocate of how technology could help us to being, I suppose, a leadership advocate from the top down. And then a few years ago, I decided to kind of change education sector. So I was always a high school teacher. I kind of felt like I'd got to the end of what I could do there in terms of in the UK, as it is in many places here in the US, budgets are really tight. There was starting to be a big return back to more very traditional ways of how to set a classroom up and how to teach, and which kind of felt like technology was being edged out more, and I felt like it was kind of going backwards a little bit. So I thought to go for a job for a digital strategy lead for a large group of colleges in the northeast of England. Moved into there, and then I had to write a strategy then. So I really kind of spent about 6 months really immersing myself in kind of local industry. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go out of the college walls and see what was going on in the industry, in the sectors where these students were going to be probably spending the rest of their lives. And so got to know kind of what technology should we maybe bring back into the curriculum, maybe what technology should we prepare them for. And it was while I was doing that, I remember I was working with a business, and they said to me, oh, come and have a look at this. And they described it as a technology as a bit like a calculator but for words. And this really, really kind of excited me. This was pre kind of ChatGPT in November 2022. In fact, it was an earlier version of a GPT, and we started to look at how do we get this into the hands of our teachers. Our teachers, the colleges were very vocational focused, so there was a lot of coursework, a lot of writing for teachers to have to read through regularly, and kind of how do we ease that burden of helping them identify the key bits of information so they could check their students' progress really easily. So we started to experiment with that. It was while we were doing that infamous moment at the end of November 2022 happened, where a company called OpenAI released ChatGPT to the world and just said, here, play with this. Is essentially what they did, and I suppose the world has kind of never felt right since, I guess. So I remember just in that first month not really seeing many people on social media talking about it, but like people in marketing were starting to talk about it and share ideas. In education, wasn't seeing much, so I thought, well, in fact, I remember I was at my mum's house, and I just decided to go on my phone, and you know how on an iPhone you can record your screen. So I just went and recorded my screen, there wasn't even a ChatGPT app then, went to the browser, opened up ChatGPT, and did something so basic, like everyone now, if you've used a tool like this, will see is so basic, and actually probably not the best use of AI right now, is I just said, could you create a lesson plan for me? And put that onto, I think it was on Twitter, and I think it went viral after a few days, and just started doing more and more of that, really. And over the next few months, I suppose because I sometimes tell people, oh, I've got a business, and I kind of do, really. We've got a business, but I've never went and sought business. It's always been just trying to share good practice,
Yeah.
sharing things that I know as a teacher I would think this would really help me. And around that time, people started saying, oh, "Could you do a webinar? Could you share more resources?" And it kind of things grew from there, really. And I suppose a crazy part of it was, I remember literally starting that process, and within 30 days, so the end of the next month, I was being invited onto a television program in the UK called Good Morning Britain. You guys have the equivalent, obviously, here. With a label under my name on this TV show as an AI education expert, and I suppose ever since then I've been trying to chase that label, really.
Trying to figure out who that guy was.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess you got to lock in now. Really.
I'm it, guys. That's all you got.
Yeah, so it was, and you know what, I'm so privileged. I get to travel the world, meet people like you, come to amazing places like New York City, and spend some real time with educators and help them, first of all, kind of raise awareness, look what this could do for you, but then get into all of the, I suppose, the complex detail that we're probably going to talk about that comes from this technology.
Yeah. So you went from, just to kind of recap, you went high school teacher, some college work, and then right in kind of from there went into AI expert. Just bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it happened fast. It didn't feel like it was happening. But I've kind of always been the type of person, and I'm sure there's probably people listening to this who would relate, that I've always had to have a bit of a side project. I've always had to have something that kind of feeds my main career. And so I suppose when things did happen, a lot of people say, like, how did you do it so fast? I suppose I'd kind of been teaching myself little bits of marketing, little bits of how to resource things and package things together, and graphic design kind of on the side for a long time.
Well, AI probably helps with a lot of that too.
Yeah. I mean, it does now. 2022, not so much. But yeah.
And truthfully, when you think about it, we're in 2026, so it's not like it just happened overnight. You had to invest time and effort and energy and figure out these things, go learn what that device was that you could take to your teachers. And by the way, what was it? What was it that company showed you? Are you allowed to say? Or
it was just a very early open source model.
Okay, so it was open.
GPT.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is, for people perhaps like me, that I'm learning more about it, but maybe totally off the grid of it. What is GPT? What does that represent?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, I mean, I suppose I'll try not to get technical.
Yeah. In simple terms.
Yeah, I suppose we've got it's kind of referred to as AI now, I guess. Although it's AI is such a wider field than that. It's a very, very, very small subset of artificial intelligence, and as many people will know, AI has been around a long time, and the term AI was coined in the 50s, and we kind of got to a point, I think, kind of around 2012, where something was starting to take off behind the scenes with what some of these AIs could do. But essentially, in very, very simple terms, some guys got together and thought, well, actually, could this work like the human brain? Could we try and train it a bit like the human brain? And many years later of trying this out and progressing this for the last 20 years, they got to a point where actually the information they were inputting into it was sufficient enough, because essentially you look at the internet, we've got like the world's information. I used to say the world's wisdom. It's maybe not so much, but
good clarification.
There's definitely some wisdom in there, but a whole lot of information there. That can kind of be taken and used to train these. Now, there's a whole host of issues around how that's done and so on, but that's essentially what's happened. All of the information from the internet has been used to train this. Now, that couldn't have happened 20, 30 years ago because just the internet wasn't there. So it got to a point where the data set was kind of sufficient in order to really power these. But I suppose just to come down onto a very basic term, we're essentially, in a way, talking about a prediction machine. We're dealing with a machine that works out the probability of either the next word or half word or third of the word in the sentence when it comes to the text generation. Yeah. It's just really, really good at it because it's trained on so much information and can see so much pattern within that. A bit like if I would say to you, the cat sat on the
chair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you wouldn't make a good
but Kevin
AI.
could say table.
I was going to say wall, but
Okay. He needs some more training.
You got to put some more input in me.
But we have these kind of we have these phrases, we have the words that we just naturally, more often than others, will come after that certain word or that phrase, especially then when within a certain context as well. And I think it kind of shines a light on just probably how predictable human language is to a certain extent. And it kind of makes sense. We're all learning from each other. We learned a lot when we were young from our parents. We even, at our ages, we're learning from each other. You might say something in a way that maybe just subconsciously sticks with me. And when I'm keynoting later today, it comes into my vocabulary as well. And then the probability of me saying that word after the word before it increases. And so this is just kind of how language kind of works in terms of how we communicate it, I suppose. They figured that out, I guess, and they looked at, well, okay then, so how can we make this more and more accurate through the amount of then sequenced words we can give to it. It can work out the probability, you can have access to the context of what these words are being said in. And that's kind of led to where we are now. So if you open up one of these chatbots and type an answer into it, it will give a very human sounding most of the time. I think some of us are getting a bit more able to guess whether this is AI or not.
Yeah.
I think a certain amount of that is us kind of wishful thinking, because a lot of the studies suggest that, especially when it comes to things like assessments, actually when we think we know that AI has written it, actually we're not always accurate there. So yeah, we get something that sounds human. And I think, well, the most important thing is, I think for the first time ever, we've got a technology that communicates back to us in our language, really.
Do you think that we are losing, sorry, I didn't know if you had a question there, but
No, you're good.
Are we losing some of our humanization, especially with the younger generation, with new students that are coming up with that? I'm just thinking, like there's some AI artist that you look and, oh, that's an awesome song. That's amazing. Who is this person looking? And then you find out it's an AI. It's an AI singing this song, wrote this song. It's an AI generated person that's actually singing the song. And like, are we losing some humanization of who we are as people?
Yeah,
through that process.
I suppose that is probably the main question underlying all of this, really. It's a huge question. And I think probably yes and no, which is the, I suppose, the easy answer. But
sure.
I think, I mean, there was here in the United States, there was a country song that was top of the charts, wasn't there? It was AI generated. Interestingly, when we look at who's using, especially the music generation tools, it is artists who are using them and kind of getting the most out of them. And I think you really have to know your stuff already in order to get something of quality or something that's a marginal gap beyond where anyone else can get it, if that makes sense. Yeah. So maybe the floor has risen on what anybody can do, but actually those who want to go even further and beyond and still stand out and still capture imagination still have to know their stuff. And I think that's one of the real sticking points around this technology, because as we talk about using this technology within school, we're dealing with children here who haven't been able to learn the basics yet, who haven't been able to learn, I suppose what we of a certain generation now got to learn. Sure. And to bring AI in, that could be really dangerous, I think. And for replacement. Interestingly, in fact, I was just looking at data this morning that said that from the Oxford University Press in the UK and a large survey they had done with teenagers, that over 80% of teenagers had learned a new skill using AI.
Wow.
However, 60%, just over 60%, felt like it had been detrimental to another skill. So this is such a complex landscape here. And I think any technology that comes along, this happens. Whether it be the print and press, whether it be agriculture and farming millennia ago. This
The internet
always
itself,
happens.
when it first came.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, look, do you mourn not having to use a map in a car anymore? I don't.
I do. I do, but,
okay.
but I'm the older one in this room. I was talking about that just the other day with someone where he mentioned the map. I was like, man, some days I miss getting the old map and paper, having to hold it against the dashboard and figure out where I'm going.
Running over a
running
fence.
off over So I truthfully do, but I understand that it is. It's fun. I enjoy putting. Don't get me wrong.
I think kind of your point is like, I've never done that.
Yeah.
So if you handed me a map and said, figure out where to go, I don't have that skill to find my way on the map necessarily.
And this was not sponsored by Randall McNally,
But I've benefited from being able to just pull up on my phone and have a nice voice say,
Absolutely.
turn right in 1 mile.
Yeah, I think it's such a good example because it kind of crosses a few generations at the moment.
Sure.
Because I think I don't think I ever did, but I remember holding them up for my dad when he was driving. So I remember what it was like. I still have some people who would say to me, "Oh, we should be learning map skills."
Yeah.
And that. What happens? I get the comment quite a bit. What happens when the internet goes down? In fact, I once thought about getting a T-shirt with just what happens when the internet goes down, because it seems to be one of the biggest questions I get. I honestly think at the moment, if the internet goes down, there's going to be such bigger issues than reading a map. And it'll probably be down for like 3 hours, 6 hours at the most. Have a coffee, chill out. It'll be back on very soon. I think I think the point behind this, the serious point behind this, is that there are some skills throughout history we've let go. Let go. And for good reason, and because we didn't need to carry on. We are a species that uses tools. Like that's kind of what differentiated us from other species for a long time, and this is the next set of tools, I guess. Now, I suppose the difference with making the comparison with something like agriculture, farming, print and press, is those technologies took a long time to establish, mainly because we didn't have communication methods like we do now. The world isn't as joined and as unified as it is now. AI is spreading very fast, and you say it's 2026. That has been kind of, let's say, 4 years. But a lot of the change that we're seeing in just 4 years is kind of crazy as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of unintended negatives, especially when it comes to our young people. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't actually be honest with ourselves about that, actually start to address that right now, and not kind of did what we did with social media and just kind of go, it'll be okay. We'll see what happens. And now we're picking up the pieces, really, with some of the damage that social media has done. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's done amazing things. It's overthrown dictatorships around the world, but it's also done some horrific things for our young people. I think right now we need to be on the front foot with this, and we need to act with intent. And something I'll say in the keynote later on is, I might seem like an optimist around this technology, but that's for very good reason. It's a strategic optimism in that I think we need to lead with intent here, and we need to lead with knowing what we want from this technology, where we want this technology, and not just like surrender and go, well, let's just let it infiltrate everywhere, because I think there will be, it would get worse than social media, I think. So I think I think there's going to be benefits to this. There's going to, and already I see students. I was talking to a student the other day, high school student, who said they use AI before they find out what the next class is going to be on, and they go and use AI to find out about it. They use AI to help ask questions of their teachers. So they'll say to the AI, what questions could I ask my teacher so I can understand more about this in the next class? So I think there's some really, really cool ways that students, that teachers can use this, but obviously we need to mitigate against the risks there at the same time.
Yeah. Well, you said the word tool earlier, and that's how, as I've seen it come across. I have 2 young kids in school, of how tools are both for building and destruction, and it's not that either one is either one of those functions is better than the other, but it's being used in the correct way, in the right way. If I'm trying to build a house, I don't want to necessarily destroy the wall, depending on what I'm doing. Maybe I need to take that wall out, maybe I don't. And so I think this is kind of a little bit of what you're saying, is like it's a tool that can be used for good, or a tool that's not so good, and it just depends on how we as a society, but in this conversation specifically, educators or schools use it. And you have to know about that tool. You kind of need to know how to use it, what it is, and not just be afraid of it. Similarly, kind of taking the hammer thing a bit further is, I may say hammer, and we all have a picture of a hammer in our head, but they're all different hammers. There's different hammers. A sledgehammer, there's a drywall hammer, there's all these different types of hammers. And it can be overwhelming. You don't know which hammer to use in what situation. But it sounds like just education about AI and how it can be used and its pitfalls is critically important.
Yeah, and I guess knowing that what is wrong for some people is right for others, and right for some people is wrong for others as well. It's so complex. I was thinking, when, just to stretch the analogy further, like, you're going to have to chop some trees down to get that timber, and there's going to be a big group of people who aren't going to be happy about that. It's so complex, this side of things, and I think what we're starting to see because of that, and I think it'll be a good thing, is that I think we're going to start seeing, and we are starting to see this already, more choice within education. So and this goes from one extreme to another. So from schools that are completely online, that are using AI to teach, like one extreme, to the very other extreme. I was talking to a guy in the south of England a few weeks ago. He was opening schools in forests and getting back to nature, and there's no technology anywhere near it. So we got completely different extremes. And I think sometimes we naturally slip into the argument, well, which one's better? Pick one, which one's better? What future do you want? And I think in the world we live in, where we just seem to naturally veer to extremes quite easily, we can have very heated debates around this. But I think what I see in that is actually is the choice that forms then. So if I'm a parent who I don't want them. They have screens at home. They do things on. I do some AI with my kids. I've got a 5 and a 6-year-old at home, and we do bits of AI. Maybe those 6 hours or 5 hours they're away from me at school, I don't want them to have any. I want them to be in nature. I want them to be climbing trees. I want them to be, because we can't really. Maybe we live in a city and we can't offer them that at home. And so the fact that there is that choice, I think, is amazing. But also the opposite. Maybe I'm somebody who believes that I know AI is going to really propel my child's education, and therefore I'm going to go more the other extreme and go, I think this is going to be really beneficial. Now, I suppose what that does is it could have some negative benefits.
Sure.
in terms of a lot of choice when it comes to education is paid for. So I worry about the equity gap there in terms of parents who can choose to send their child to an independent school and those who can't, and what maybe in a few years' time the state education looks like if it's been drained of resources and people, even just with a little bit of money, I suppose, because the more options that arise, the more market forces will bring prices down. And And so I do worry about that a little bit. I think that is ultimately the direction we're going in. It might not be as straightforward as I'm making out, and I'm sure it won't be. But I think we will end up getting more and more choice. Yeah, and it's going to be an interesting time. I think it's going to be, and I suppose for the teacher in the classroom trying to figure all this out, and we really need. And it's something I talk about a lot at the minute. We need leadership, like more than ever right now, and not just. And I talk about this as someone who's been in school leadership, and I work with school leaders. I mentor school leaders. I work directly with heads of secretaries of state for government departments, for overseeing education departments. So I'm really invested in leadership, and I think leadership at all level needs to stand up right now.
Yeah.
And I think in education, and this is a very broad statement, but in education over the past few decades, we've kind of stuck with the managerial model of leadership and kind of, all right, how do we keep it going? How do we keep this ticking over? How do we keep those incremental gains? I think at the moment, our times are calling for more innovative leadership, and for more entrepreneurial leadership in a way as well. And I think sometimes when I say that to leaders, it scares them. And when I say that to teachers, because I'm talking to teachers here as well, because I think all of us at every level of education have got some sphere of leadership. I think it's scary because first of all we think, no, but these are children's lives. We can't be like Silicon Valley and kind of run fast and break things and kind of see what happens. And I'm not advocating for that, but we can make informed decisions and pivot a day later. We can say to ourselves, right, this is the track we're going to go on, and next week when things don't seem to add up, rethink and change course. And I think we have to realize that making a decision isn't a zero-sum game. We've got to still steer the ship there and be I suppose, that word courage, essentially in a basic way means being able to make decisions when you're not 100% accurate. And I think we have to get more comfortable with that, because nobody is ever going to knock on our school door and say, here are all the answers when it comes to AI, when it comes to what's happening with this technology. Now, I know some educators will be sat there thinking, this is just technology. It's the next wave of technology. You talked about cloud technology earlier. This is not the next stage. Why so dramatic about this? I think anybody who's really kind of got into using AI and looking at where AI is infiltrating at the moment, I think it doesn't take you long to realize this isn't a technology issue. This is an issue that involves all areas of our lives. It involves, and it's one of the things I say at schools is, please don't leave this to your IT team. This is not an IT issue. This is not a put it on their desk, they'll sort it out kind of thing. This is a real leadership issue, because this is going to impact how you're hiring teachers. It's going to impact what's going on in the classroom. It's going to impact human resources. It's going to impact kind of everything, and it kind of already is. But I think we've got a real leadership job to be done at the moment, and we've got to come together for that. And I suppose the danger is there's leadership in silos, and we've really got to make more of a concerted effort, I think, to come together as leaders and not necessarily do that so that we're waiting for one of the other leaders to make a move and we follow them, but actually to actually get together, share ideas, make moves together,
absolutely,
course correct together, and do this in a way that's gonna really benefit our kids, our children. Because I think right now, not doing anything is a choice in itself. It's not a neutral choice. And from what I'm seeing from working with schools around the world, those who made the choice 2 years ago are already making some great gains there, and it will take maybe some other schools a bit more time to catch up now. So I think we've got to come together. We've got we've got to be brave in our leadership, and we've got to do this where we mitigate against those risks, most importantly.
And I would add one more word. You said lead with intent. But I think for me personally, I think it would be important to add lead with intent and integrity.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're so scared of failure and scared of anybody failing, we're going to make mistakes. Yeah. There's going to be mistakes that happen, and especially with AI. I mean, both of you have younger children. And with those mistakes, we're going to make some mistakes. You're going to make some mistakes. I made lots of mistakes as a parent, but I can't be afraid of the mistake if I'm leading with intent and integrity. Yeah. I understand that and that's, we got to have that from our leaders. And if our integrity is right, if our intent is right in the purpose of what we're trying to do, especially in this culture and what we're seeing and the rapid changes that are taking place every single day with AI, if we're leading with intent and integrity, then I think the mistakes that we make are going to be minimal. There'll be mistakes, but they won't be as dramatic as if we're just like, hey, who cares? Kind of thing. So
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, both the things you guys just said is great, but I think I'm going to have us put a pin in this conversation for a second. We'll take a quick break for our listeners, but when we come back, I want to talk more about how get a little bit into what tools and things are available in the AI space for educators to lead with intent and integrity. Wonderful. For that. So thanks for setting that up, Kevin.
Yeah. That's what I'm here for.
Thank you. Thank you, buddy. But listeners, hang out. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Let me know if this sounds familiar. You just finished listening to an episode of the Innovative Schools podcast, and you want to hear more from that guest or speaker. Well, you can at the Innovative Schools Summit. The Innovative Schools Summit is an event that brings internationally recognized thought leaders, educational consultants, teachers, and administrators from all over to come and show you what they've learned. We feature speakers like Michelle Borba, Michael Bonner, Steve Spangler, Gary Brooks, Kim Bearden, and many, many more. You're not going to want to miss this. We hold these summits in big cities like New York, Las Vegas, Nashville, Orlando, and San Antonio, so there's always one close by. If you want more information, go to theinnovativeschoolsummit.com and check it out. We hope to see you there. Learn from the best in education on Accurate.com. Accurate.com is our subscription-based service that we offer for educators just like you. We have over 40 masterclass-style courses that gives you more than 80 hours of training. These courses cover a multitude of subjects like leadership in your school, to climate and culture, to even just classroom management, and so much more. And this training is from the real experts like Bruda Kefele, Michelle Borba, John Almarode, and even Michael Bonner. We release a new course every month, and you'll be able to start applying these strategies as soon as your next day in the classroom. Go to Accurate.com to get started. If you use promo code PODCAST at checkout, you get 10% off your first 6 months. Visit Accurate.com and start learning from the pros today.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Innovative Schools podcast. Kevin and Jordan here with the AI educator, Dan Fitzpatrick, all the way from England. I'm absolutely chuffed
Not just
that
England,
you're here.
Newcastle.
Yeah, my
that's
bad.
important.
But just chuffed that you're here.
Yeah.
I was told to use that word because it's a British word or something, but I don't know.
When you said it there, I was thinking, I thought that was a British word.
Okay.
But yeah.
He's not even sure of that word. Good job, Jordan. He's chuffed. Take that one back with you.
But anyway, yeah, just someone's like, hey, work it in the conversation. So there it is.
That was good, though.
But anyway, we're talking AI, artificial intelligence in education. We just spent a good long time just we explored a lot of different areas of AI there for a second. Some personal philosophies, some things that we saw, how you got into the AI and along that road and everything. But here, I want us to kind of try and bring this down into the classroom for our educator friends that are listening. And the thing we kind of left off on was using it with intent and integrity, right?
Yeah.
The two things. So I guess my first question with that to you, Dan, is kind of around the ethics of using AI in the classroom with those two things. What's something that maybe an educator should definitely be looking at and how to use this to help their students learn, or maybe something that 100% just right now, let's not go down that path. I don't know. Let's just open the conversation on bringing it into the classroom.
I think there's some really easy ways to get started with AI in the classroom. I think it's going to depend on the level of education.
Sure.
I kind of think at the moment, elementary education, we need to be really, really careful with how the AI we put into students' hands. Mm-hmm. I think even if we should put AI into students' hands at all, really, I think they certainly should know about it. They should certainly know how it works. They should certainly know some of the dangers, but also I suppose the surrounding skills. And they're not new skills. So things like being able to critically think, critically analyze, be able to iterate, be able to evaluate, like some the core skills that hopefully we're teaching students anyway. If we just slightly shift their focus onto AI, I think might be all we kind of need to do with younger students as they develop those skills at the moment. I think as students get older into middle, high school, we might want to start introducing them to some AI tools. And I know here in the United States there are some great platforms that have been created over the last few years that will allow students to do all sorts, really, from create their own AI assistant that will not just tell them the answer, but will kind of in a Socratic way help them talk through the answer. So I know there's some great teachers who are creating their own AI chatbots. Mm-hmm. A bit like I remember when I would create a unit of work when I was a teacher, and I would then put all those resources onto my Google Classroom, and so students could at any time could access those resources. What we're seeing now is teachers also then taking those resources and putting them into an AI bot that then becomes trained on those resources. Sure. And it's just adding an extra dynamic onto that resource accessibility for students, where they don't necessarily have to go into a document and look through everything, but they could just have a conversation.
They can interact. They can ask a little bit more about one thing, depending on it. It almost makes it a bit more personalized. Yeah. For that individual student of what they might be interested in and what they might need help with. Yeah,
and I suppose that context as well, a lot of them can deal with the contextualization of it. So if I was a student and I said something like, I'm into soccer, could you kind of give me an analogy? Because I can't get my head around it.
You're learning parabolas. Can you put kicking a ball into the arc and make me figure that?
and the capabilities will be there. I mean, to varying degrees, depends on the tool. But I think probably one of the most important things here is, and it probably comes down to what you said about integrity, is that how we're choosing those tools is so important as well. Not just for capability, although that's going to be really important, but also for trust of the company. Where does the data go here? Where does the data get held? So I think once you trust a tool, once you trust a company, and you've kind of ticked all those boxes, the then capability of what that tool could do for you as a teacher is going to be incredible. And we're seeing stats come out where teachers are saving a lot of time. We're seeing stats come out where teachers are saying they're being more creative than ever, because not just because they're saving time and can spend a bit more time on creativity, but they're using AI as a bit of a thinking partner. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably really crucial to kind of explore a little bit as well, that how we use the AI is vital here. It's not just, I'm going to use AI like it's some kind of vending machine and we go, right, I'm going to type in my code in the vending machine for this task or this activity.
Write me
and
this
there
paper.
It comes out. Yeah. It's a conversation, really. And kind of going back to what we said earlier about this is kind of the first time a technology has ever spoke our language. Mm-hmm. That brings with it a whole complexity of, we now need to use our communication skills, not just with the humans in our lives, but with the AI in our life as well. And that's going to take conversation. It's going to take techniques that I think teachers already have. So things like, I sometimes say to teachers, when was the last time you modeled an answer for a student? And I remember we used to do a technique where it was I do, we do, you do. Mm-hmm. And you apply that to an AI, and you're training an AI really well, because you're saying, right, okay, I want you to help me create a resource. This is the type of resource I normally create. This is the type of language I normally use with my students. And then you create with it. And then at some point, it might be able to do a really good job for you, where it's never going to do 100%. It's never going to, because I mean, that's when we start to worry, I suppose. If it can do it at 100%, then what am I doing here now?
Yeah.
But we still need to inject our professionalism, our subject knowledge, our knowledge of students. We know the context of where this resource will be used. So I think, in a sense, pick your tool. There are kind of two categories of tools for teachers at the moment. Two main categories. The first category being just a chatbot. So you might, if your school uses Google, you might use Gemini, Microsoft Copilot. You're going to get there a general purpose chatbot that you can talk to about anything, absolutely anything. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get it really to specifically focus on exactly something that might be a bit technical, maybe a bit pedagogical, that you need to direct it there. Then there are kind of, I suppose, what I would call third-party tools. So tools that use that technology, but have built their own platforms around it. Sure. So am I allowed to name specific names? So no surprise to anyone, I suppose, in the United States at the moment, the Magic School, School AI, Brisk are kind of the top three, or at least the top three that I hear educators talking about a lot. So with Magic School, I suppose one of their great abilities is to break down AI use in really simple ways. So instead of me sitting at a chatbot thinking, I wonder what AI can do for me today, it kind of creates a toolbox for you. And so you click a button where it says, I don't know, let's say there's a tool that I really like, actually. Apply a topic to a real life scenario, something like that, where you're going to be teaching that day. It's going to be quite dry, the topic. How do you really motivate them? How do you link it back to their lives? And there's a great little tool. You click on it, you say what you're going to be teaching, and then within a split second, all these applications of this knowledge, of this theme. Now, you can do that with ChatGPT, you can do that with Gemini, you can do that with all these other tools. But I think the great thing about a tool like Magic School is I might not have thought of that. I might not have, before I had my coffee at 7:30 that morning, when I'm thinking, right, I really need to apply this lesson today. I might not think to ask an AI. So I think it's really a tool like that really helps as a bit of a bridge into becoming quite proficient at AI and coming up with good ideas. You got tools like School AI, who are really good at creating chatbots, where you can train a chatbot on your subject knowledge, on in fact, what I recommend teachers do when it comes to that is just pick like a small unit of work, and you may have your lessons planned out in documents. You'll have your resources. You'll have your assessment material, whatever it might be, your quiz. Put it into the chatbot, and then you can even give it a personality. So let's say you're teaching ancient Egypt. You might say, "Okay, I want you to act as a mummy."
Or Cleopatra or something
like
that.
A tour guide mummy who takes students around the pyramids and doesn't answer their questions directly, but helps them to come to the answer and understand. You can do that really easily. Then you get a nice link, you put it into your Google Classroom or wherever you store your resources, and then you get a nice overview as a teacher, so you're able to see the conversation students are having. There's some AI in there that flags maybe inappropriate use, which is going to happen from students. Of course it is. Pauses the conversation, alerts the teacher. There's some great tools that will just help bring, I suppose, resource into a more in a more dynamic way. It goes from that worksheet into something that becomes conversational, more dynamic.
I heard a great one yesterday. I never heard of it. Notebook LM.
Yes.
What I thought was cool about that is that, if I understand correctly, you can correct me because you're the expert. But what I understand, you have to.
Says.
That's right. That's what the title says. That's what they told you back then when you were on that
just
show.
Down here.
That's right. That's right. Is that you have to input your own resources, though. It's just not gonna. You have to input what you already know and your own files into it. And then as a result of that, then the information starts coming based on what you already put into that. And there's like you can do a podcast with it, and interact with the podcast. I thought it was really unique, but something that stood out is that you're implementing what you already know into that system, and then it's regurgitating other things.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing a lot of what you're saying here, and I love that we've talked about specific things. I always on the podcast want teachers to be able to walk away with, I can look this thing up. I can go and look at that. But I feel like a bit of the philosophy, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I'm hearing from you is that, and we've established that AI is a tool, but you're not talking about using AI to replace the learning, but it's just an added enhancement. I think back to when I was in school, how much I might have been able to benefit from having something that could slightly personalize some content for me, stuff that maybe I wasn't super interested in, or I didn't understand the situation that they provided, and I just needed a little bit more context or something that was a little bit more personal to me. And so from kind of like backing up in the in the more general sense of the way that schools and educators can use AI is to deepen the learning, to not replace the learning, but to deepen it. And I talked to somebody a while ago of what they would do is, I don't know what AI thing they used, but they would put their lesson plan into it, and it would create a 15-minute podcast based off of that they could share with their students, and their students could listen again. And when he played it for me, I said, "This isn't real people talking?" And he's like, "No, this is all just straight AI." But I think when I was in school, if I could have some of those resources, being able to dig a little bit deeper in, I have this question, I have that question, and it respond back and say, let me explain that a little bit better for you, or try a different way, or put it into, I played baseball growing up. So going back to the kind of the soccer or football of you're teaching arcs or, how to calculate the math for that. I don't care about soccer as much, but if you tell me, okay, you hit the ball at this angle, at this velocity, work it out that way, and I know it's baseball, that would have done a lot for me to have it a bit personalized there. I feel like I kind of said a lot there, but in general, I feel like it's enhancing learning. It's adding, allowing them to go deeper. It's not replacing.
I think all of this comes down to, and the more I kind of think about this, the more I realize all of education comes down to accessibility.
Yeah.
How are we helping our kids to access learning, and that accessibility is going to be different for every single student, and then especially students who might have ADHD, dyslexia as well. But I think the key here is how do we help them access the learning? Because you know what it's like from being at school yourself when you have those moments where you just can't access it. I remember for me it used to be like kind of around 8th grade math, and I just didn't have a clue. And the major fault with that class was all the answers were in the back of the textbook.
Oh yeah.
So
talk about doing the learning for someone.
Well, of course, first of all, I don't understand it. I don't feel like I'm getting any help to understand it, and the answers are already there.
Yeah.
And I suppose I was lucky because I know people who went through the whole entirety of their school life like that with pretty much every subject, and it kind of pains me to think that in this day and age, especially now that we've got technology, that can really open up learning in individual ways as well for where that student is at, their context, their interests, like you're saying. That it's almost we talk about the ethics of AI. I feel like it's almost an ethical imperative to use it. Obviously in a safe, risky way. We're not saying go gung-ho with this, but we need to see what the benefits are and capitalize on that, because the fact that this exists, and maybe there could still be that student out there who, given Notebook LM, and Notebook LM is in Google Classroom now, and Google are working on an experimental version of the same technology that goes into Notebook LM, but in kind of a new wrapper of an interactive textbook, and it's really cool. It's really, I think when they release it, it's going to be really impactful, because as a student, you type in what you're interested in, it takes on the content of that class, and then it creates an interactive learning experience. Wow. So with the podcast in there, with a video, with assessment questions, and I think we really need to explore these. Now, I think one of the biggest pain points is, and probably teachers listening to this will think, where am I going to get the time? Like, okay, we get people say things like this to all the time. You need to be doing this. You need to, and not just about technology, about all areas of school life. Yeah. Sure. I remember when I was on a senior leadership team, we in a school, we were all responsible for different areas, and it would be a fight between the leadership team of who was going to get the kind of the faculty meetings, and so because everyone thought they had something really important to say to staff. And everything was important. It's just there wasn't enough time, and then also enough time for teachers to take that away and actually process it and implement it. And I think we really need to figure out, as coming back to leadership again, really how we allow our teachers or our educators to play with this technology. Because I think, and you know yourself, like when somebody showed you Notebook LM or someone showed you that podcast, it's not until you can actually sit in front of it and experience it that your mind is going to blow and go, whoa, this is amazing. Yeah. And so just talking about this technology is kind of, okay, but I've got 5 classes now I've got to go teach, and then I've got to get home to my own family. So I think just having that bit of space to play with one of these tools, and I focused on School AI, Magic School, Brisk earlier, because I think they're kind of the safest tools, especially in the United States at the moment anyway, around data and so on. But like you rightfully said about tools like Notebook LM, there are so much more going on. Like I use a lot of them in something called Claude Cowork, and Claude Cowork is, I mean, you probably wouldn't even recognize it from some of the tools that we're using right now. And it only came out about 3 weeks ago, but you teach it skills. So for example, if you say, right, this is how I always create my units of work. So got my unit of work coming up. I need to create it. I do a bit of a debrief from last time I taught this unit of work. I tweak it and all that kind of thing. You explain it all to Claude Cowork, and what it would do, it would create a skill that it is taught itself, and then you were able to go and ask it questions, and it will pull on that skill in the most incredible way. Like I talk about my business. I think Claude Cowork is probably doing the job of about 5 people in my business at the moment. And allowing us to, because we want to we try to keep our business small, and allowing us to do that at such a small level because of what it could do. By the way, it can also access my computer when I want. So if I say to it, some software on my computer for video editing, I've just recorded this raw footage on my phone. It's in this file on my computer. Could you open the video editor up, and could you do X, Y, and Z? Wow. And then I watch it on my computer screen, go open up the video editor and start to edit the video for me.
This may sound very terrifying to some people.
But I want to get the point across there that there's AI, and then there's AI that came out last week. And we're in that world at the moment where this is progressing really, really fast. And I suppose the main point I'm trying to make is, when we're using this in classroom, when we're using this with our students, when we're using this within our organization, we can only use what's safe. We can only use where We know our data is protected. And so we kind of have to rely on that quizzing tool or that platform. But there are other things coming down the line that we will get into more school packaged platforms in the next few months, few years, that are really gonna benefit us, I think, in a huge way. And we'll probably be back having the same conversations.
I was going to say, we're going to have to
is this
tomorrow. We can have this again.
Yeah.
So what are, for those teachers that are kind of freaked out and in that situation, I got to go teach 6 classes today and got my kids at home, got to take care of this. What are some practical, maybe 3 or 4 practical things that they can do to begin to teach themselves to learn more so they're not afraid of it?
Yeah, I would say the first tool I always show teachers is Notebook LM. So I would say type into Google Notebook LM. So the word notebook followed by the letters LM. It'll be the top result on there. You will need a Gmail account or a school Google account to log in, which pretty much everybody in the world has. Once you're in there, it will ask you to upload some source material. I would take maybe some of the content from your last class you taught, or some of the resources that you have, or maybe you're thinking, you know what, I'm going to create a unit of work in a few weeks' time. Here's some stuff I already have. It will allow you to put YouTube videos in there, PDFs, sound files, put a bunch of stuff in there, and then see what it does. That first bit is going to probably take you a few minutes, so it's not going to be too much time. Then you're going to be presented with a panel to be able to converse with all of the source material you've just put in, ask it questions, ask it to do some things like maybe plan out 5 lessons for me, an overview. I think that if you've not done anything like that before, that enough will make you think there's something in this technology. And then you go to the panel on the right-hand side, which is called the studio, and you click create a podcast. And within about 3 minutes, you will have like you said, a full conversation, normally between a male and a female, having a relaxed, informal conversation, a bit like this, about the source material you just uploaded. And that, even just for us to learn, for educators to learn, is incredible.
Yeah.
I was doing a session with a group of principals in the northwest of England just before Christmas, and I remember showing them Notebook LM, and literally all of them started creating a podcast out of something, so that as soon as they got into their car on the way home, they could listen to it on the way home. Because all of us have documents, we have policies come to us, it's Friday, we're just about to go home, and the principal or the superintendent or the state has just emailed some new document we need to read. Put it into a Notebook LM, click create podcast. By the time you get to your car and your phone is then hooked up to your sound system, you'll be to press play. You will listen to it in the next 10, 15 minutes. And then when you return to that document, don't ignore the document, obviously. This is not about replacement. But when you return to that document, you will know what it's about. You will have broken the ice on it. So maybe some of the technical jargon you will be able to understand. And you will be able to tackle that, whatever you need to do with that, in such a more efficient way. And I think it's just, at the minute, just being clever with things like that for ourselves. And I think once then we start to realize how this is impacting our learning, then we can go start thinking about how this could really help our students, and how we could do this probably in a more dynamic way for our students, because our students need a bit more dynamism when it comes to learn. But then it puts us in a real place of knowing how it works, how it can benefit, and then we apply everything we know from pedagogy, from the real life students in front of us. And I think the mix of those elements is really going to set you in a good standing. Yeah. But I suppose even just to boil that down further is you got to try it. You can't just read about it. You can't just hear about it. You've got to use a tool like Notebook LM and try it to see for yourself.
And for the administrator that is in the role of trying to figure out how deep do I want our system to go with this, how far do I want our schools to be engaged with AI, our students to be engaged, What's something that you would tell district leaders, school administrators to encourage them that they don't have to fear?
Yeah.
But what is something that you would tell them to say, hey, embrace it with intent and integrity, but embrace it?
Two things. First thing, when I was young, my dad used to say something to me, and did you ever have your parents say things to you, and then when you grew up, you would like say them out loud to other people who weren't in your family and realized they weren't a thing, and you were like,
100%.
Yeah, I sound really strange now.
Yep.
So this is one of those things. So my dad, whenever I would come up against a challenge, my dad would sit me down. He'd say, "You've got to throw your hat over the wall," and he would use this phrase, "You've got to throw your hat over the wall." And what he was saying was, when you come up against a challenge like a brick wall in front of you, if you want to get over it, the first thing you do before you think about how big the wall is, how wide the wall is, how difficult this is going to be, you've got to throw your hat over the wall, because then if you want your hat back, you've got to get over the wall. You've got no choice.
Yeah.
And I think at the minute, as administrators, as leaders in education, we are looking at the wall and we are thinking, this is big.
Yeah.
This is a big wall. And there could be a lot of failure trying to get over this wall. We're going to fall, we're going to scratch our face, we're going to bruise. And I think that's what's leading to this decision paralysis at the moment. What I say to leaders is throw your hat over the wall. And it's just something as simple as doing a little bit of research around this AI thing. Not much, maybe spend an hour or two looking at what the CEOs of the big companies are saying. Don't take all that for granted, because some of that will be some hype. What some of the universities are saying, stick it in a notebook LM, get it to summarize it, do a podcast for you, listen to it on the way home, and then think, in that world, what do our students look like? What do our faculty look like? What do our administrators look like in 5 years' time? In that world, if they're going to be thriving, if they're going to be successful, what do they look like? And then once you've got your hat over that wall, once you've said this is where we want to be, then start thinking, well, what's that first step? The next thing I say to leaders is think of the 4 virtues. What are they? Prudence, courage, justice, and temperance. All right. We're taking them out of a religious context here, but think of those four virtues. Those are the virtues of a leader as well. Prudence. You need wisdom. You need experience. That might not necessarily be your own wisdom or experience. It might be the wisdom of a Google search. It might be the experience of your fellow superintendent who you catch up with, the community you've got. That is so important, that prudence. Secondly is the courage. Like I said before, do not think that you're going to get 100% certainty on this. You're not. I love something Barack Obama used to say. He used to say he would wait for 51% certainty. I think when they got bin Laden, they had no idea he was in there, really. They had some intel. They didn't have eyes on him at all. But it got to a point where Barack Obama said in an interview once, he said it got to the point where soon as the certainty tipped to 51%, he would act. Now, did he get things wrong sometimes? Of course he did. But no one remembers him for the things he got wrong, really. I mean, well, maybe some people do. I forgot I'm in the United States.
That's right. So, remember where you are now.
But I suppose his legacy goes down for the things he got right. And he's, I think, objectively, for many people around the world, Barack Obama was quite a strong leader in that. I'm wishing I didn't get into politics now. A few seconds ago, so I'm trying to.
You're okay. You're good.
Well, because out of that, I mean, hey, we're all the same way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I like that idea. I'm not saying school leaders just get to 51% certainty. Some things you will, especially when it comes to keeping our children safe. You're going to want 100% certainty. It's kind of not what I'm talking about here, though. I'm talking about directional.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the direction, the strategic directions we decide to go in. The fourth one is justice. Are we making sure that all of our people are being treated fairly? Is the direction we're going in supporting our most vulnerable students as well as our most able students? Our less experienced faculty to most experienced faculty, or more younger faculty to older faculty. Are we bringing everyone together, and is justice being served here? And the last one is temperance. Now, temperance, essentially the ability to know when to stop, the ability to go, right, maybe we should rethink this. And I think if you keep those in your mind as you're trying to get your hat back from over the wall, I don't think you can go wrong, because you're relying on the collective wisdom. You're making courageous decisions, but you're making those decisions in a way where you're continually sense checking, is everybody coming along with us? Is everybody being treated fairly? And do we need to pivot? And I think as a leader, if we're keeping those in our heads, that framework, then we don't just ask of it of ourselves, we ask of it of our leadership teams, we ask of it of our innovation groups, our AI task force, whatever you've created in your district or your school. But we need to move. We need to move, because you're not going to get the hat back unless you start climbing. Okay, you might not get over the wall until the 20th attempt. Yeah. But if you don't even make the first attempt, then you're not going to get there. So I think it's interesting, because I think the most practical thing you can do now is actually move to that strategic 5-year level. Because if you just start going, right, we're going to have an AI policy. Let's get a group of people together. In a few weeks, I want to document. If that's not grounded in that 5-year strategy, it's not going to mean much, really. If anything, it's just probably going to keep you where you are. I'm not saying don't have a policy, but I'm saying do the policy the week after you've done your kind of strategic aim, because then the policy is going to be written in a way where you are facilitating that journey to happen. You are keeping people safe, yes, but you're making sure people have got the right outlets, the everything they need, the training they need in order to keep moving.
Figure out why you want the policy, why you need the policy,
Exactly.
why the policy is important.
You kind of need to know the tool before you start
even
making decisions.
need it.
on it.
Yeah. But it sounds so obvious, but it's not.
No, it's
really
not. It's not. No.
And I think sometimes the amount of times I think it's just checkbox exercises. Okay, we've got the PDF policy on the website. Anyone can check it when they want to. We've done that. Now what's next? So I think as administrators, I think if we haven't done that already, we probably need to look at that. Yeah.
Throw your hat over the wall.
Throw your hat over.
I like that. I'm going to start using that. Throw your hat over the wall.
My dad always said, I'm going to land the plane on this. We probably could just keep talking for
I do have
4
one more
hours.
question.
You have
but
one
no,
more?
yeah, go ahead.
No,
okay. You're going to land.
question, and I'll land
so
it when you're done.
I always like to try and throw out a question on mine. So my question to you is, looking back over your life and looking forward, especially with what you're doing, if someone gave you the chance to put a billboard up and you could say anything you wanted on that billboard, what would you say?
I would,
for the world to see.
About artificial intelligence.
About artificial intelligence, about whatever.
Okay.
I mean, what is that one thought that you want the world to know about, Dan Patrick, about artificial intelligence, whatever that is?
In my first book, The AI Classroom, I wrote a chapter called Outsource Your Doing, Not Your Thinking. And I think right now I'd probably put that on a billboard, because it's so easy to start giving away little bits of thinking to AI. And it kind of makes sense when you realize how capable this is. You're like, actually, you could do this better than me. I would say to everybody, resist that. Resist that. Get AI to do things for you, of course. Get it to come up with ideas. But you still be the person who chooses the idea. You still be the person who takes that idea and adapts it for what's needed. I think in a world where we're kind of already in, we're definitely heading in that direction, where AI will be ubiquitous. I think what's going to make you stand out as a person is your own thinking. Because, like we said before, if that bar is now raised, or that the sea is now raised to everybody can have amazing ideas, everybody can do amazing things with AI, that becomes the normal. what makes you stand out on top of that normal still. And I think it will always be your own thinking, your own ideas, your own creativity. So yeah, outsource the doing, but don't outsource the thinking.
It's good.
I really like that. So my dad used to say to me every day before I'd leave for school, he'd say, be a thermostat, not a thermometer. Took me a long time to figure out what he meant by that. And I have a point here, is he was saying when you're in a situation, when you're in an environment, don't just read the temperature of the room, but control it, because that's what a thermostat does and not a thermometer. And I just want to say thank you for being a thermostat in this crazy environment of AI right now.
Absolutely.
And leading and championing and helping educators and all of us understand more of how it can help us outsource doing and not thinking. And so just to kind of land the plane on our conversation and everything, just want to thank you, Dan, for spending time with us here and for your work around the world, not just in the U.S., not just in the U.K., but around the world. And just I've loved this conversation. We really could talk for another 6 hours.
Well, I don't know how long we've gone, but truly thank you. Your inspiration and what you're doing, and thank you for making a difference in the lives of educators, teachers, administrators, world leaders that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. If someone wants to, you have a couple books, you mentioned one of your books, but if someone wants to maybe talk to you a little bit more or get you to, because you go to schools and stuff and talk to different people, what would they need to do to get in contact with you?
Our website is theaieducator.io.
Okay.
So everything's on there. Yeah. And if you just want to pick a book up and read about kind of all of this, I suppose a lot of the themes we've covered today are found in a book called, oh my goodness, it's just gone out of my head.
Did you forget the name of your own book?
I just forgot the name of my own book. Infinite Education.
Got it.
Infinite Education. Even as I said that, I'm like, that is right, isn't it? How long is this conversation? Yeah. So Infinite Education is very much, the first half of the book is very much kind of building the case of why we need to think differently in education and why we need to do that strategic throwing our hat over the wall. The second half of the book is literally a practical guide of, right, how do you pull a team together? Who should you get on that team? Here's some practical activities you can do to based on design thinking and other techniques to get people thinking about the AI you want to use, and then even get to the point of how do you experiment with it? How do you do it so it's not negatively impacting the school? Essentially, how do you fail in a school and learn lessons within a school? How to be entrepreneurial within a school, really. So yeah, it's quite practical. Cool. I've had a lot of school leaders come back and say that they literally follow it and are using it.
Awesome.
And so it's amazing to hear that. Check them out.
We'll put links to all of that in the
if
description.
they want to follow you, Facebook, Twitter, or any of those?
Yeah, my main platform, I think, is LinkedIn.
Okay.
So yeah, just search me on LinkedIn and I'm sure you'll find me.
That's great.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us again. Thanks to all of our viewers and listeners for joining us on this episode. As I always say, educating is difficult. There's challenges that come with it, and we just hope to provide more tools with you. And I know that on this one, you learned a couple new things. Hopefully, we made you a little more comfortable with AI and how it might be able to help you educate your students so that they can go into the world and be the best versions of themselves. So one more time, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Kevin, for being here with us.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah, man.
It was good.
Thanks.
Good job,
that was
man.
awesome. Sweet. We'll see you guys on the next one.